Hello there.
Hello.
It is Sunday and a little bit of a miscommunication with the times.
It's
The
so weird
UK,
that
yeah,
our time changes before yours.
yes, you've gone forward already, and we're still in winter time. We actually don't go forward until the 30th, I think around the 30th, 31st of March.
That's crazy.
So,
That's crazy.
and I
It
know
looks like it
Canada.
would be the same around the world.
Yeah,
But
and Canada hasn't gone forward either. So we're still we're still in winter time, baby. So hence why it said 4 and 5. So apologies about that. Anyway, it is Sunday evening from London
and from
and,
Virginia.
and Sunday afternoon from Virginia. And it's nice to have you back, Val. We missed you.
Well, I missed you all too.
We missed you last week. It was like, where's my sister from another mother? Michael did
Yeah,
us proud. He
we
did well.
I mean, sometimes shit happens.
Yeah, Michael did us really proud, though. He
He did.
was
He did a good job.
so. But the team's back together. The band's back together this week. How's your week been, Val? Has it been good or bad?
It's been medium. I've had good days and bad days, so
Oh, I know
I
that
couldn't do my
feeling.
show last night because, my signal went out. It
Yeah,
was pouring rain and the wind was blowing outrageous.
yeah.
So, you know,
Well, I think you sent it over here because it's been miserable today. It was so nice yesterday, but today is miserable. We have
yeah,
an interesting topic, which I think everybody, sadly,
yeah,
in the world is going to have either experience of it, know someone who's had it or had it done to them, or actually has done it. And that is about, we called it affairs of the heart, but it's actually about cheating affairs.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I think,
quite,
I think there may be a very lucky few that have not experienced that in one way or another.
sadly, I think probably very small. And that's a sad thing, isn't it? To actually even think about that there
Oh
is
yeah,
only, there is a small amount of people that have not experienced it, and predominantly more of us have, because of what we've been through in our lives. And you just look back and you go, oh my God. Because I remember the first time it happened to me, I
the first
was
time.
the first time. Oh,
Damn, woman.
it's been more than one, I'm afraid, in my lifetime. And you do wonder if you pick them, whether you pick
That's
somebody,
true. That's true.
but no, it's happened to me a couple of times, and it was quite awful. And I think, either I've just been really unlucky or I've just tended to pick really bad men. Um, but I think, like all of us, it's a terrible shock when you find out that someone is cheating on you or having an affair.
Yeah.
And and I remember the famous interview with Princess Diana where they said, how did you know what was going on? And she said, a woman's intuition
Mhm.
is the best. And I think it's so true that you kind of get that sixth sense, don't you?
Well, I think if you're around someone uh, like you are, whether you've been dating a long time or whether you're married and you know their mannerisms and their routines and all this, when anything changes, you notice it.
Yeah.
Whether the way they talk, the way they uh, groom themselves, the way they, you know, start working late or, start dressing different, or you notice things. And I think a lot of times, as sly as people try to be, when you're with somebody 24/7, you notice small little things that you really can't hide.
Yeah.
So, I think even if it's the way that they talk to you, you know, things they say or whatever. You know, I think, well, I mean, I'm not going to say just women, but I think both men and women both pick up on subtle things.
I think also to have a successful affair, you
Mhm.
have to not change your routine. You have to not change in behavior. Behavior.
Right.
Nothing has to change, which is very, very hard to do. And I think we are all aware of, like you say, the subtle changes. And I
Mhm.
actually brought up one of the lists before we actually go into a particular one I wanted to look at, which is somebody who spends more time on their phone than they did in the past. So, you know, they're constantly on the phone. Now, not being funny, a lot of us are always on our phone, aren't we? We're always
Yeah.
picking the phone up, we're carrying it everywhere. But you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Somebody who is perhaps picking it up, maybe placing it down. I mean, you know, trying not to be paranoid Android, placing it down, putting it on vibrate, silence. For example, it's always on quiet, it's always on vibrate. They put their phone down on so the screen's down so you can't see. I'm not saying that necessarily means they're having an affair, but what I
Well,
mean is
no,
that
but if it's
it's on.
different from the way they always have done it, you
Mm,
know, especially, I mean, I've known of people that if you even go near their phone, they'll grab it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, you're like, "My phone's dead, can I borrow yours?" "Oh, well, mine's
No,
charging," or, you
no, no,
know.
no, no. I know. Oh, they hover around as you use it.
Mhm.
I mean, there are people. There are though. To be fair, those amongst us that do carry our phone everywhere with us.
Sure,
We
I
carry
do.
it to the toilet, you know, because you think, God, you know, if your mum rings or you have an accident or you whatever, you've got your phone on you. So
Right.
that isn't always a sign, but you know, I think it can be a sign. Also, if they won't share their passcodes with you. Now, this is a bit of a one that I want to leave. I mean, because if you just started to date someone and you're, you know, you wouldn't want to look through their phone. You wouldn't want their passcode. But I
No.
think what they mean is as if you're in a stable relationship, if you're married, you're living together, then is there a problem sharing your passcode, Val? What do you think?
I think if you're married, or in a committed relationship, there should be no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna know what's on their phone anyway,
Yeah.
you know? You're gonna pick it up if it rings or whatever. So, I think it would be kinda suspicious for, you know, your husband or significant other for, you know, like you said, if you've just started dating or something like that, you know, it you're not as apt to go pick up their phone if it rings. But if it's your
I
husband and, you know, whatever, you're just, I mean, most of the time, if my phone rings, I'm like, "Well, answer it." You know?
Sandra said no one touches her phone. She's got a PIN number that only she knows. My ex-boyfriend went into my phone and I didn't have a PIN. Now, Sandra, I'm going to ask you, would you feel happy sharing your PIN code with your partner if you were settled and things were good between you? Carlene says they have each other's passcodes. Fair enough. I think it is very much an individual thing. Um, but I think if you are married and you're in a stable relationship,
Mhm.
then is there a problem? I don't think there's a problem sharing each other's passcodes. That is a sign, though, if they won't. I know someone who actually said to a friend of mine, good luck with trying to get into my phone. Why would you say that? Like, what is all that about?
You know, I mean, I don't want it in your phone anyway.
So the other one to
You
look at,
know?
I'm just bringing up where my little signs are, where they gone. Here we go. Next one. seems anxious to share any phone calls, text messages, and emails. So, for instance, they get an email, they get a text, you hear the phone going off, and you're like, "Oh, who's that?" "Oh, no, nothing. It's just nothing." It's just like, And I remember when my ex-husband was using his phone all the time to chat to other women on dating apps, and it was going through his email account a lot. You just know, because he was showing those signs. The phone was locked, it was lying down, it was on silent, and it was just like, oh my God, my worst fears came to light.
Right.
This is a strange one. Prefers to leave their phone in the car or in their bag overnight. Now that's a point, because I do know some people that do get their phone and they leave it in their bag, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm spending time with you, or I'm spending time with them, so I don't want to check my phone." Do we think that's a sign?
Well, I think that could probably go both ways,
Yeah.
because, you know, when I go out with my daughters or something like that, I either we all have our phones, I mean, be honest. But,
Yeah.
if we have them, we turn them face down on the table, or leave them. I'll leave it in my pocketbook or whatever,
Yeah.
because I'm with my daughters or
Yeah.
my mom or something like that. So I don't, I'm not expecting anything. If somebody calls or whatever, I'll look at it. But, I think it's kind of, I think it could be nice in a way, but if it's out of character, it could be suspicious.
Yes, I agree with you. I think it's all you're knowing that gut feeling, isn't it? That experience.
Yeah.
I mean, also the credit card. I mean, obviously we're looking at this picture as if you're in a relationship, you've been in there for a long time,
Right.
you're living together in a marriage. You see there's charges on the credit card for flowers. You've not got any flowers. If there's charges for dating sites, and you're actually, why are you on a dating site? Why are you being charged for it when you're actually shouldn't be doing that? Meals that aren't work related. That's an interesting one. Yes, that's a very interesting one. And refusing, if you're in a marriage or a long-term partnership, refusing to show your credit card statement. Interesting point. No, you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it. And before we come to the others, you're reminded of when there's an affair, it really sends you down a path you don't want to go down
Oh,
emotionally.
absolutely.
Your confidence goes through the floor. You can't sleep, you can't eat. It's like having a breakup. You can't sleep, you can't eat, you're on and off the toilet, you feel sick, your mind is going over and over. When did this happen? Who is this person? When did this occur? What's wrong with me? Was it something I said? Was it something I did?
Well, I will tell you, it's even worse when they ignore you at home, or they don't have the best. If you don't have the best communication at home, or if you are, I'll just say it, not getting any at home, whether that's sex or affection or any of the above, but yet they're cheating. So it absolutely affects your ego. It affects your self-esteem. Everything that that you think, well, why can you go out and do that, but you don't want to do it at home?
I think there's many reasons why people have an affair. One is because they're not getting what they want at home. That is
Mhm.
one. One would be because they just want to, and it doesn't matter who's out there, they're just going to go and do it anyway. The other one is if emotionally that it's come to a point where there's no sex happening, there's no intimacy between the two of you, and one of you feels absolutely unwanted and undesired.
Yeah.
That can, for you to go and look, you don't want to cheat, you don't want to go down that road, but you feel perhaps unwanted. And it may not be easy to leave the marriage or partnership. It may not be easy. There might be children, there might be money issues, but and sometimes it can be that it happened out the blue. It wasn't something you were looking for. It wasn't something you were actually actively making happen. It just happened.
Yeah.
That does happen, as sad as it is. It does happen. You weren't planning on it, but the next thing you know, hell, you're in there.
Well, I looked up 12 reasons women cheat. And this is like a study done. The number one is dissatisfaction in the relationship.
Yeah.
It can be anything from, they're just, it can trigger someone to, if they're not getting what they want, or what they need in a relationship. Low self-esteem is number two. Emotional starvation.
Yes. Becky.
Here's a big one. It's anger and retribution.
So like revenge in a way, right?
Yeah. Some women may resent their partner for another reason, such as a partner's past affair, and use their own infidelity as retaliation. That would probably be a big one, I would say. Lack of excitement. Yes, if you get into this mundane everyday routine and it's just boring, you get in that rut, and
Yes.
it's the same all the time. You want excitement. Number 6 is sexual deprivation. So,
Yeah.
Loneliness, which would go back to the, emotional affection side.
And that's awful, isn't it? That you're in a relationship and you can feel so lonely in that relationship with someone, and you're like, I shouldn't be feeling lonely because I have this amazing partner, but actually I feel all alone. And I think you brought up about sexual deprivation. If you have a relationship where you both agree that sex isn't important and you don't need it, or you both don't want it, fair enough. But if one of you is actually saying, I do want sex, and it is important to me, and the other person's like, well, I don't want it, or it's not as important to me, you've got a problem. Because as I've always said, if one of you wants sex, or both, or it's just not happening, it's more of a friendship than it actually is a lovers or relationship, because you haven't got that sexual and emotional intimacy. So you can imagine lying there, and I have been in that position in my lifetime, lying next to someone. You can't touch them, because if you touch them, it's not wanted, or you're going to get rejected, and you just lie there and you just feel so alone, and it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Been there, done that.
It's worse to feel alone sitting next to someone you love. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
One is insecure attachment style.
Yeah.
And it is, it's several different things, I think. Uh, it says depending on the care and nurturing or lack thereof that one receives as a child, they'll fall into one of three attachment styles as adults. Secure, excuse me, having well-adjusted expectations and approaches to relationships. Anxious, exhibiting fear of abandonment or avoidant, preferring to retain their independence from others. People who identify with anxious and avoidant attachment styles are more likely to display characteristics
Yeah.
that interfere with a healthy romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Think clinginess and dismissiveness.
And that's, I think I'm more of an anxious, but I can have avoidant too. But you put them together and you've got someone desperate for or keen for the emotion and to be attached, and the other
Yeah.
person is like, whoa, keeping you at that distance, and and they can be dismissive as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Number 9 is midlife crisis. So
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
that one's kind of self-explanatory, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah.
Number 10 is an underlying condition, which I can understand that because, a lot of times depression and, if you have underlying like anxiety or depression or things like that, that can really impact, your own self-esteem, but it can also carry over to your relationships. Um, you may constantly be needing that affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
needing that, needing them to tell you that they still love you, and you can, and it's not because you don't believe them, it's just because you need to hear it. You just need to affirm that they still do. Um, Number 11 is just opportunity.
Which is, as I said, and Sandra brings up a good point, because if you're in that relationship, like you can love someone and you love being with them, but you just don't fancy them anymore. It's just gone.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, I don't want to split up with them because I have an amazing relationship. We get on really, really well. Everything's really great, but I just don't want to have sex with them anymore. And we all know people that are in this cake and eat it. They
Yeah.
want the cake, they want to stay with someone, they want to have all the qualities that go with it, but they don't want to have the sex with them. And meanwhile, the
Right.
person wanting the sex is feeling completely rejected, and what's wrong with me? Why don't you want to have sex with me?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, very common relationship pattern, that, when you first get with someone, it's high. You are having sex everywhere. You're having
Yeah.
sex on the floor, on the stairs, any place you can get it. You're the endorphins, the dopamine, or it's going everywhere. And then it can, if it stays like that, you're lucky, but it doesn't normally stay as high, but it can still stay. But normally it tends to come down a bit. And as
Yeah.
time goes on, life takes over, people put weight on, work takes over, they're tired, there's children issues, there's money issues. Sex is the first thing that can go out the window.
Yeah.
And you're left
And
with,
I think every relationship kind of gets in that friend mode after a
yeah,
while, but that's one that I know we've talked about it on here before. That's one reason to spice things up or keep it exciting.
yeah.
Because even when you get into that friend zone, you're still attracted to each other and you still surprise each other.
You've got to be good friends with your partner. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
To be good friends with your partner, you've got to have that banter and chat away with them about everything, and all those recipe that you need to have, laughter, etc., etc. But
Right.
got to fancy someone. Like I hear a lot of my friends say to me, I've got to fancy them. If I don't fancy them, what's the point of me dating them? And it's
Yeah.
true. If you fancy someone, if they don't make your heart go pitter patter and, get a bit frisky with them, what is the point of dating them? And I think I want to use an example of quite a famous an affair before we come back to your list, which is, and she's well known to have a few, is Elizabeth Taylor, who in her time had a lot of husbands, but there was one partnership that she kept coming back to, which was Richard Burton. They
Mhm.
both were married. They both would have affairs. When they were married, they had affairs. What is it about some of us that are with someone and we're still having affairs with other people when we're with someone that we absolutely adore?
You
It's
know,
like, you're getting it, but it's not enough.
I think a lot of people crave that high that you get.
Yeah.
Um, you first meet someone,
Yeah.
like you were talking about, you're high on that excitement.
That's right.
And then when you're with them a while, it kind of fades. And people will go out and want that high again, but
Yes.
they still love the person they're with and they don't want to live, but they want to feel that high.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it could be for any reason, you know. It doesn't have to be just because they're sick of the people they're with,
Yep.
but it kind of makes things new, I would
I
think.
also, I also think as well, like when you are, that's quite a toxic relationship they had as well, very toxic. Let's bring
Yeah.
up another one, Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, who he then eventually went and married Angelina Jolie. And they denied nothing going on between us. We're just work colleagues. But, it was well known that there was something going on
Oh,
between
absolutely.
them. And for Jennifer Aniston, the moment her husband came home and said to her, you know what, I'm actually going to work with Angelina Jolie, you could tell the writing was on the wall, because you'd be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh my God, unless you went to work every day with him.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't say, "Oh, well, I've lost him," you
Because,
know?
Angelina Jolie apparently with Billy Bob Thornton, I think I think there was another affair with him as well. But I think what makes us that, I mean, she must have been, I would imagine, and I mean, Jennifer Aniston is a very beautiful woman,
Right.
but I would imagine she had some insecurity inside her, because her beautiful husband was going to be with a very sexy woman and playing a very intimate role, which actually led to a full real life relationship, marriage and children, and a
Right.
very public breakup. And yes, you could say that Jennifer Aniston got the last laugh. But the denial is another one. When you know what someone's up to, but they just dismiss you. You're crazy. Where are you getting this from? You're nuts. Oh, I'm so sick. And they get very defensive. They put their
Yeah.
walls up, or they laugh at you and go, don't be stupid, and so then you become crazy. You end up checking their phone, going through their email, following them, looking at them on social media, checking their
Yeah.
friends list, going through the messages, trying to get the proof to actually show that you're not going crazy.
Or even calling their friends
Mm.
who may not even you may have never even talked to before, but
Yes.
you're calling them, or
Hi, how's it going?
were you with, so and so, Thursday
Yeah.
night? And they're like, "What?"
Exactly. And then you look at
Yeah.
and also the car. The car, like you'll see how many miles it's gone from, because you'll know how much they're using. And you're kind of like, and I've even known people that have said, I've sniffed their clothes when they come home. Can I smell aftershave? Can I smell sex? Can I smell perfume? And you just think, wow. Do we think that, you know, I know of, I'm hoping she's going to come on. I'm not sure if she is, but she's got a very particular story to tell about her experience. But for me, it was for my ex-husband that was unfaithful. He did everything online. So it was all done via the phone and computer, which these days is so easy to do because you can hide stuff, you can archive stuff, you can do lots of different things. And they say that if you were to give your phone to your partner for 24 hours, some relationships would not survive that.
Oh, yeah. I completely believe that. But another thing you have to remember is when you're looking at somebody else's phone, you take things out of context.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you may see something that triggers you, and it might not be anything.
Yes.
It may just, you know, I think a lot of times that's where texting gets people in trouble because
isn't it? Like, be careful what you look for, because you just might get it.
exactly. I mean, you know, you might message somebody something and not mean anything by it.
Yeah.
And they may take it the wrong way.
And it's easy to do with texting, because when
Absolutely.
you do text people, you know, you could write something and you've meant it a completely different way and they've read it a different way. And you're kind of like, but I didn't mean it like that. So that's why I think voice notes are easier, because you can then bring it over actually how you want it. For me, it was, you know, we didn't have a very sexual relationship for reasons which still to this day, you know, make me confused. And you look back and think, wow, those years I wasted. But
I do that too.
Yeah, you look back and waste, because you know what? Life is really short, and before you know it, it's gone. But I think for me, it was like I spent years with a man worrying, is he going to cheat on me? Is he going to do this to me? You know, checking his phone, checking his whereabouts. He would come in till late. I didn't know where he was. He wouldn't answer his phone. I went through 6 years of complete misery that I would never, ever want anyone or me to go through again. And I think I got to a point where I just don't care. I just got to a point where I just don't care anymore. And if you get to that point where you become paranoid and you don't trust someone, because trust is everything. If you don't have trust, you've got nothing. If you don't trust someone, you've got to let them go, or as much as you can, or you're going to have to bite the bullet and trust them. Because I don't know about you, Val, but I think I must have lived on adrenaline for years. Is he doing something? Is he, you know, what's he doing? You know,
But it's such a miserable feeling though.
It was.
It's so miserable to constantly have that in the back of your mind, constantly be looking for little things or trying to catch him in something. Or, you know, it can drive you completely crazy if you let it.
I mean, to be honest, it was the point where life was so unhappy, because everything he said to me, there was a part of me that was like, are you telling me the truth? And there was another half of me that wanted to believe it. And I think that it was a very, as Keith says quite rightly, it's exhausting.
It is. It is.
Got to a point where I was like, I go to bed at night and I'd be like, is he on his phone during the night? You know, is he doing this? And then because it was a long distance relationship, because he was in Canada for some of the time and I was in the UK, I wasn't around. And obviously I discovered that when I was in the UK, I rang his phone and it went to voicemail, and I did know the code, and there were voice messages from another woman, and it came out that obviously this is a woman we'd been married about 7 or 8 months by that point. He'd gone out for dinner with another woman. He'd gone and bought a sofa with this woman for our home. He'd had a jacuzzi with this woman. They'd drunk wine together. She had no idea he was married, none, until I actually rang her up and said, actually, I'm his wife. And she was like, what? So how do we feel about that? How do we feel about someone who's having this affair but doesn't actually know that until they find out that their partner is actually involved with someone else, is married?
Honestly, I don't think they're to blame, because if they truly didn't know, then it all falls on him.
Yeah.
Now there are many times when they do know, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They don't care. That's different.
Yeah.
But the ones that have no idea, 9 times out of 10, they will drop him like a hot rock whenever they find out.
You'd be surprised, because I remember emailing some of these women and actually sending a wedding photograph of us, and they actually said, we don't care. We absolutely don't care. And why are you writing to us, not him? And we need to speak to him because you could be anyone. I'm like, what, do you think I really doctored this photograph? Obviously this is going back before we had all
but see that in that case, they really believed him.
They did. They absolutely believed.
I mean, again, it's him. I think once most women find out that they are married, not all, because a lot of women go after married men.
Yeah.
But I think any normal woman would end it immediately.
I think it depends, if that marriage is over and it's coming to an end and they are actively ending that marriage, as in you can see they're ending it, they're leaving, they're packing, they're moving out or whatever, and you can see it's coming to an end. But if they're in that environment and they're still living with them and they're still involved with them, absolutely. And it just goes for men and women as well. But
sure.
For me, it was the absolute betrayal that someone I loved and trusted and so much had betrayed not only our marriage vows, but had betrayed the bond between us, the sacred trust, and had a jacuzzi with someone, had fallen asleep tucked up on a sofa with someone. And it was like, what the hell have we got that's so special if you're off doing it with someone else? And when do we class as cheating? When does cheating start, Val? Does it start from flirting, from texting someone? When do we feel, what do we class as the cheating?
Well, I can only speak for myself, but I think when it comes to the point that you have done something or you do something that you would be ashamed or would not tell your significant other about.
Yeah.
If you flirted with someone or whatever, or if someone flirted with you, if you talk to someone, if you spent time with someone and you don't want your significant other to know about it, I think that's where it starts. Anything that you do not want them to find out about.
I think you're right. I think, and also if you are look, we're all flirty. We all have a laugh. We all are.
Absolutely.
But there's a boundary that you don't cross. And you make that well known that, you can laugh and joke, but there's a boundary you don't cross.
Well, yeah, I think if the way I see, if you have done something that would hurt you if your significant other done the same thing, you know, that's not good.
I
If
mean, a lot of the
if
time,
they did something and it wouldn't bother you to tell, if they told you that they done the same thing and it wouldn't bother you, then it, you know, doesn't bother me. But if it's something, it's hard to describe, but if it's something that you wouldn't want them to know about,
mm.
it's probably something you don't need to be doing.
Do you not have memories of at least being told by your, cheating partner, you're crazy?
Oh,
You
yeah.
they then deflect onto you, and they might say things to you such as like, "You're just jealous," or "You're crazy," or the next
Oh,
thing you know, they pick a
I've been
fight,
called all kinds of stuff.
or they start picking a fight with you. They try to make you feel guilty for doing something wrong. Well, how do I know you're not doing it? Well, you've
Yeah.
been talking to them. You better show me your phone. What are you doing? And all this kind of stuff.
The thing about it is the one that cheated on me accused me every day
Mm.
of cheating on him, and I didn't. I, I had, I had plenty of reason to, but I didn't. But he's the one that was cheating on me, and he was accusing me and starting fights over it. Exactly, Keith. Gaslight. He did that every day, and it was him that was doing it the whole time, not me.
Cheating is when emotions get involved because they cross the line eventually. Yes, or physically, just physically. I mean, sometimes it's just sex. It's
Yeah,
just sex, right?
yeah. But I think, and it sounds very weird to say, but I think that kind of cheating doesn't hurt as bad.
Do you think so?
Well, just personally.
That's a good point. Is the emotional side more
I think the
painful?
emotional cheating hurts worse because it's got that, you know, it has to do with your head and your heart, not just, you know, a fling having sex. But I think I mean both hurt, don't get me wrong. But I think the emotional hurts worse because they should be giving you what they're giving someone else.
Yes, I think you're right. I think the emotional side probably, because it goes a lot deeper.
Right.
Also, notice they can become very evasive with their answers. So you'll say like, I haven't seen you for a while. Like, you seem to be out more and more, and it's like, oh, it's just work. Work's keeping
Right.
me. I got to do more, right? And that is a good point because you're not getting a direct answer from them. And also, you might notice them starting to make an effort in their appearance. They might start to think, I need to make a better appearance. I'm going down the gym. I'm losing weight. I'm buying new clothes. I'm having my hair done. I mean, to be fair, they might just be like taking care of themselves. They might just be thinking, I need a bit of but that
Right.
is,
But if it's not, if what they're doing does not involve you,
yeah.
and like Emily said, both are cheating. That's true. They both are
Mm.
cheating. But I think emotionally, it goes deeper. I think when it's emotional as well as physical, because it seems like, I don't know from experience, but it seems like the emotional affairs last way longer.
Yes, because there's that attachment. There's
Exactly. And it takes away more from your relationship. And
I
it
mean,
hurts the relationship more, I think.
we're not saying that if your spouse suddenly starts to lose weight and go on the keto diet that you're like, oh my God, they're having an affair, because they're
No.
not. But what I'm saying is if you start to see that and other signs as well as losing weight, for instance, I mean, they've, you know, sometimes they can talk about someone a lot more. Someone just started at work, they start talking about them a lot, and they're the opposite sex, and you're kind of like, they're talking about him or her quite a lot. And they can bring up that person's name. Oh, you know, this happened today, and they did that, and you actually think, what's going on here, right? So there's that,
Right.
there's that kind of scenario.
Yeah.
And also work schedule. If they suddenly their work schedule changes and they start coming in later, unusual hours, and you call them, and maybe you can call them at work. Maybe they're working on their own normally at work, and they'll take your call. That to me was one from my ex-husband, because he would work late, always late, because he was in the restaurant business. So he was always working late. But when it got to about 3, 4 in the morning, and you're like, hello, and they don't answer the phone, then yes. I mean, I'm sure you've had experience of that as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, when you are trying to get a hold of someone and they tell you they're someplace and they should be answering, but they're not answering.
Mm.
So you automatically think, are they hurt? You know, have they wrecked? What's going on? And then they, you know, get how, oh, well, my phone died or something, you know, and you're thinking, that's not true, you know, because you called me later. You know, you kind of become like an FBI, you know, an FBI senior officer, because you're like, okay, this doesn't add up.
Interesting comment. No one owns anyone, and multiple relationships emotionally and physically is okay in my book. Absolutely. If you absolutely want that and
Yeah,
you both agree to it, then it's not a problem whatsoever, because you're
but
both on the same hymn sheet.
but if it's not mutual
That's
and
when the problem.
you're one is doing something behind the other one's back, that's not a good thing. It's you know, you can have a mutual relationship that, you know, as long as both of you are okay, do what you want to do.
Mm.
But if one's okay with it and one's not, it's not going to work.
You've got to come from the same same
Exactly.
hymn sheet on that one. I mean,
Exactly.
you know, my relationship at the time wasn't that frisky, you know, it wasn't that sexual. And I used to think that, you know, I could walk through the house naked, and he wouldn't make it, he wouldn't notice me. You know, it would be like,
Been there,
can you
done that.
just, yeah, can you just move? Because I'm trying to watch the TV.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah. Everybody wants to feel
yeah,
wanted. Everybody wants to feel desired and wanted. Certainly if you're in a relationship with someone, you want to feel desired and wanted.
sure.
And, you know, you might not be able to bang for Britain all the time, but there should be that spark, you know, that thing that pulls you back. And if they start to, as you probably know, you know, not want to get close to you emotionally, not want to get close to you sexually. And very good point. Is it easy? Isn't it easier for a woman to cheat on a man than a man to cheat on a woman? I would disagree. I would say it's easier for both. It's as easier for a man as it is a woman.
Yeah.
It's no different.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely. And Colleen says, me too, been there, done that. And I think it's very important that, you know, there is no, it's just because I'm a woman doesn't make it easier. Just because it's a guy doesn't make it easier. Both If you cheat, you cheat.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we're looking at it from the cheated side of things. But what if, and the one thing I always tell people, listen to your gut instinct. It's normally
Yeah.
never wrong. You know, your gut will just say, there's just something I can't,
Yeah.
something I can't.
We all have that little inner guide, and if we listen to it, it can help you on not just this, but on so many different things.
Yeah.
If something is telling you something's not right, 9 times out of 10, something's not right.
I mean, the worst thing is when someone else knows what's going on and you don't. And you don't know how to tell someone. I've been in that situation where I know someone was doing it with someone else, and I was like, I can't say anything because it's not my place to say. But you feel like crap because then when you see them together, you're like, I can't say anything. So did you, would you go to that person that is having the affair and actually say to them quietly, listen, right? It's not my business. But I'm just so you know that I'm aware of it, and maybe you should just come up front. If it's, what would you do? What would you do, Val?
I think it would depend on who it is, but it's, I guess, how close I am to them, how much of a right I have.
Yeah.
If someone was dating my daughters and was cheating, and I knew they were cheating, oh, believe me, they would all know.
Yeah.
But if it's just an acquaintance or something like that, I mean, I might try to be sly, and be like, you know what, you might need to look more closely into where he's at, blah blah blah, or whatever. Just because I know how it feels.
I think it's important to look at it from both sides, from the cheater and
Yeah.
the cheated, because I want to make clear that not always the cheater is a terrible person.
No, that's true.
Just because you are the cheater doesn't mean you're a terrible person. Doesn't mean
Right.
that, obviously it depends. Every relationship is different. Every situation is different. It depends on the relationship and situation.
But I will say, if you are the cheater, before you do that, if that is what you have decided to do, just break up with them. Just end that relationship, because it's going to be better on both of you. It's going to be better for them if you just end it, instead of going through all this and then it ended up coming to an end anyway.
I'm reminded of Johnny Depp, who was with Vanessa Paradis for many, many years.
Yeah.
And he too, like Brad Pitt, he went and worked on a movie with Amber Heard. And we all know the way that went.
Not too good.
Not too good. And Johnny Depp come up, I think it was a saying he wrote somewhere, I read, that if you fall in love with a second person, you should choose the second person, because it means you were never properly, you've fallen out of love with the first one.
Right.
And I think there's a point there. If you are drawn to someone else and you do not want to save your previous relationship, you don't have the same feelings for that person anymore, then your instinct would be to go with the second person,
Right.
because you don't feel the same way about the first anymore.
Yeah.
So when I saw that quote, and obviously with Johnny Depp, I think there was, shit happens. We meet people, we fall in love, we find people attractive. Sometimes it's just physical. I think if you're a wife or a husband and to find out your partner is cheating, it can be devastating. It can really mentally and emotionally destroy you.
Sure.
And it can leave you with that, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with us? And can you come back from cheating? Can we come back from it? Can we get over it?
I think it depends on the people involved. I mean, I have lost trust in certain people that I don't see it ever coming back.
Yeah.
I think it depends on. I think every situation is different. You know, the different circumstances. The result is someone ended up cheating, but and I may sound horrible to a lot of people, but I think it all depends on the circumstance.
Yeah. And it's very easy to judge
Sure.
someone else and say, why did that happen?
Yeah.
Because there's always, nothing happens. Well, some things do happen, but I mean, you can't just say, well, actually, I fell over and my penis ended up going into her.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you can't
tripped.
really come up with
You
that
know,
one. It's not going to work.
I don't think that happens very often.
Not that often, but
No.
you can't sort of say that. I'm going to go to Afterglow, and I'm going to invite anyone who wants to come in. We've got a few people waiting, but it's like I'll invite anyone that wants to come in and share their story with us, because we want to hear from cheater and cheated, and there is no judgment here. It's
No.
just about let's just share our stories, because
Right.
hopefully if someone's watching tonight and they're going through it, it might give them a bit of support, a bit of help. So
Right.
let's just go to Afterglow and stay with us. Here we go.
Self straight here and
Yep.
look over there.
I'm going to bring the lovely Michael Honeyslight in. Hello, sweetie.
Hi,
How are you?
How
Michael.
are y'all, ladies? Great show so far. And I messaged Wendy earlier. There's a new viewer that's watching saying, "Great show so far." He had to cut out. He's going to continue to watching while on the road. Hope he does it safely. But I was going to tell people it was National Women's Day the other day. Nobody brought it up. You got to support women's health.
Thank you for reminding us. And also, it was Mother's Day in the UK.
Yeah,
and
Mother's
Europe.
Day in the UK. Yep.
Happy Mother's Day.
And women's health is always important. Family member got diagnosed with cervical cancer that I found out yesterday. No matter what age, go get checked at the doctor, ladies.
Absolutely.
And no, I've been over taking notes.
Nice to hear a man say that as well. Go get checked, ladies.
Hey, get your mammograms. Trust me, it's not a good thing to not have one.
That's it. Yeah, might as well have a little discomfort now so you don't have a lot later.
So, Michael, you're sitting backstage and you're listening to us. We're talking mainly about the cheated, and we're now want to bring in as the cheater because, as I said, we've all been there one way or the other, and
or both.
What's your take on stuff?
I was cheated on, and then I was the cheater, and and my advice to anybody, like Val said, if when it comes time to cheat, break up and leave. It cuts down a lot of aggravation and heartache and headache later. And sometimes the headache is worse than the heartache. And some people are just serial cheaters. I've known people that cheat in every relationship they go into, men and women. They just cannot commit. It's committal issues. Mommy didn't love me enough. Daddy didn't love me enough.
Well, do you think that goes along with some of the people who are addicted to that feeling?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's the endorphins.
That excitement.
Yeah. Endorphins are a drug. Now I'm thinking, it's sociology for the psychology part. And a lot of it is the environment you come from.
Yeah.
If mommy or daddy had a new man in their life or a new woman in their life every week growing up, you see that and it puts out a pattern. And you think it's okay if you're going to continue to do that.
But that can go both ways. That could make you completely not ever want to do that.
Yeah.
Or it can make you follow in their footsteps.
I've seen things that my dad and mom went through that that I will never repeat. I
Yeah.
totally polar opposite of that. But I seen a thing that they posted about nobody owns no one or whatever, about like an open relationship. And when that happened, the deal was you can do this, this, and this, but don't never kiss her in the mouth and don't never tell her you love her. That was a deal breaker. So I'll get the physical and the emotional part, and people keep it separate. And it goes back to genetics. A lot of times men are just genetically programmed to repopulate the earth. And women are more nesters. They are more built to take care of the home. And that's not being sexist or whatever. That's just how it was when I grew up. Women stayed at home and men went to
Well,
deer camp or whatever and did their own
well,
thing.
saying that, do you think more men cheat just for the hell of it, just for the sex of
Probably.
it, or
Yeah.
and women cheat more for the emotional side?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, Val. And I did it because I wasn't happy at home. Because me and Wendy's read my charts, and it says that's uncharacteristic for me because I'm more loyal than loyal, and stuff like that. And it's more, I pull everything close to me. So mine was I was looking for something I wasn't getting at home, and when I found
How
it, it
did
was
you
like a breath of
feel
fresh air,
how did you feel being the cheater? Because,
like shit
it's
for a
not the
minute.
nicest feeling in the world, isn't it? How did you deal with that?
Um, I just try to put it out of my mind. You know what I'm saying? If you don't think about it, you know, out of sight, out of mind, and but that it was an ongoing thing for like 2 years. She went on the road with me when I worked out of town, and I came home to my wife, which felt like the affair partner. It felt like I was cheating on the woman I was with all through the week when I went home to be with her, which is weird. Ken said, "You'll never forget,"
You never
but
forget, but got to forgive. If you live in the past, you never have a future. So what
yeah,
he's saying is you don't forgive, you don't forget, but you can forgive.
yeah,
Sometimes you
uh,
can't, and
No.
no,
in those cases, the relationship ends because
yeah, yeah,
sometimes you can't forget or forgive.
yeah. No, you cannot unburn a bridge. You
Mm-mm.
can't. You cannot.
And once
And
that trust is gone, I, in my experience, it can't come back.
no, I always
And the
said
relationship is gone if there's no trust.
there's a few things in life that are earned and not given:
Yeah,
respect, trust, and stuff
Yeah.
like it. And
yeah,
and once they destroy either one of them, it's done. I can't. I might forgive, but I'll never forget,
yeah.
and I'll never be brought back to what it was. You can never rebuild the house you tore down. You
Well,
never can.
another thing, even if you forgive and forget, you still don't trust them.
No, no. And like I said, and the running joke was, Wendy, seen how hard we was working behind the scenes to get things to go on my Facebook and stuff like that. And Chandler's over here working his butt off. And I told him, I said, well, we got about an hour before I go. And I said, let's make sure everything's ready to go. And he said, Michael, you know what you told me a long time ago? I said, what's that? He said, if they want to go through your phone, let them. It's only going to make them have a bad day because you're going to continue to be happy. And that's what I said one time, when the deal with the ex and the girlfriend on the side, she asked him one day, she said, I need Michael's code because she knew that he had access because he's a business partner to, like email, phone, and all that. And he said, well, he said, I told he said, I'm not going to do it because, he entrusted that with me. He said, but he said, if you get it, the only person who's going to have a bad day is you. And that was my, now I wasn't going to hide it. Was I going to come clean about it to start a fight? No. I just tried to, it was a really, really bad relationship and I wanted it over, but she wouldn't leave. And she knew about the other woman and she still wouldn't leave.
The
I don't
thing
know
is,
what else I'd have to do.
though, being a cheater, and if we use that term, it means that you've sought something else away
Yeah.
from your partner. Now, once you go over that boundary, and
Oh, yeah.
if you, as you say, you can't go back easily. It's
No,
never the same. But
no.
once you've been over that boundary, like you're asking about your situation. Once you'd gone over that boundary, did you ever feel in yourself like, I could have done, I shouldn't have done that, or what did you have guilt? What sort of
No,
feelings did you
no.
have?
Like I said, she had cheated before, and she's just unpleasant at home. And I figured if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
And what about when you
So
were cheated? What you were cheated on? What was the difference? Because you'd had both done now.
Oh yeah, and like I said, the one, well, ex-wife cheated when I was deployed. Which really makes it really bad. And I've seen a lot of women said, "Oh, you cheat on a man when he's deployed, fighting for your country," and women are more harsh on other women in certain scenarios than men are.
do you think it
And
was like a spite thing?
oh yeah, his most definitely spite. And because I even told her, "Hey, you the one who wanted to play this game. Now sit back and watch how it's done." Is more vindictive. That turned into
How
very
did you
very long
feel?
term.
How did you feel when you found out?
Oh, I was pissed. I was hurt, and hurt turns to anger, and anger turns into
Spite.
destruction. Yeah, spite.
Mm.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's why I tell them, you want to keep scoreboard? That's fine.
Yeah.
Hold on to your knickers, honey, because it's going to get real.
That's pretty toxic.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I wanted her to leave. So like, hey, if you want somebody to leave, and like I said, I don't know why she want to leave because I turned it up to 11. I burn it down, inside out.
So
She said
yours is
she.
quite extreme. Yours is quite an
Oh yeah.
extreme situation. I was in a situation with someone that I met someone as they were coming out of their marriage,
Mm.
and never date someone's best friend.
No.
But without going into the ins and out of it, but I met someone who was coming out of their marriage, and there's a lot of things that when someone's coming out, there's a lot of emotional stuff. If someone's still
Oh
involved
yeah.
in a relationship, there's so much emotional stuff.
Even if
And
it's on the back side of it.
yeah, and it's like so all of a sudden you're in that mix. Even though you've not been involved in that reason, you're involved in it, and it's messy. And I get where Richard's coming from with this really good
Yeah.
point where he says it never works if you enter into another relationship before you end the first. And it's so true because you're dragging, isn't it
Well,
right, Val?
all the emotions you had, all the pain, the hurt, everything from your previous relationship carry over,
Yes.
and you expect the same from them,
Yeah.
even if they don't do it.
Yeah.
You treat them the same as you did the previous because that's just what you're used to.
And you
You
have to,
expect them to hurt you.
and once you've been emotionally hurt by someone as well, you trusting someone else is going to be very, very difficult. And
Oh, yeah.
why? And I remember dating someone who said to me, I don't want to suffer because someone else hurt you and actually made you mistrust them.
But that
I've not,
happens often.
and it
Yeah.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
I was going to ask y'all. Most of the time, women are more mischievous, more well planned that they cheat. It's more of a planned out affair, and men are more reckless. It just happened. Like what was the saying? Me and Wendy's talked about this before. There was a famous
Men
actress.
are, was it men are simple and stupid and women are deep and devious?
Yeah, it's it, and that is so true in life. And there's a famous actress that had got caught cheating, and the lady asked him, "Oh, are you trying to console him through his penis?" And and then run a joke, and I seen that said, "Oh, you just tripped over and your penis fell in such and such."
Wasn't
I
that
said, "Yeah,
Eddie Fisher and Elizabeth Taylor?
I think
Because
so." And
Carrie Fisher said her husband died. Elizabeth Taylor's husband died, Mike Todd, and my dad consoled her with his penis.
yeah,
And I just thought that's a very good way of putting it. I mean, I watched my own mum go through this. My dad unfortunately had affairs during my parents' marriage. They should never have married in the first place. But
no,
what I'm saying is my dad had affairs, and I watched the destruction. But what I watched as well is my mum had a particular experience when my dad had an affair with a woman. This woman would write to my mum and include all the letters that my dad had sent to her. So my
mm,
mum found out my dad was having an affair by this other woman who was sending her letters going, this is what your husband's doing to me. This is what your husband's saying to me. And she would send them around midnight. my dad was on shift work. So when my dad would go to work, she would then come to we're going back like 1969, 1970. She would come to the house and post it through the door. My mom was pregnant at the time with me. You can imagine the shock that that was for her to find out that this was going on. And what is it about the other person, the other woman, the other guy that actually wants to help split that situation up by stirring the pot?
Yeah, that's the old wooden spoon, just stirring. Like I said,
Yeah, I think
that they want to move up.
in some cases, sorry, Michael.
The side woman wants to move up to the main woman.
I was going to say the she wants what the wife has.
It's because he might be screwing her, but he's coming home sleeping beside the other woman.
Yeah.
And the other thing he's talking about, have you seen your friend cheating or whatever? Would you tell the other person? And the other person a lot of times would be like, "Oh no, my such and such would never do that," and it caused hard feelings between you and the other person. I mean, I've seen that happen so many times.
Yeah.
And anymore, I tell them, not my monkey, not my circus. It's their life, not mine. If they can live with it, I can live with it. And I won't even intervene anymore.
Wendy, you brought up like mourning, and I think number 12 on the list I had was numbing difficult feelings. So I think that's one reason a lot of women, if their husbands pass, they seek that comfort. And it says that people can develop a wide variety of coping mechanisms to deal with difficult emotions, sometimes choosing strategies that have emotionally numbing effects as an easier option than facing them.
Yeah.
So, sex, drugs, alcohol, and other addictions or compulsive behaviors, that develops to keep them from having to deal with those hard emotions.
Travis, I just want to say I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing it, but as long as us women can have multiple husbands, because right now it's a little bit unfair. Like a lot of guys can have, multiple wives. Women don't have their multiple husbands. Tina says, know your self-worth and just move on. Very, very good point. David says, are we talking sex again? No, we're not. Just come up in it. I want to bring Carlene in. Hello, Carlene.
Hello.
Hey,
How
Carlene.
Excuse my attire. I had a bit of a bad spell again tonight. I was doing real good, and then I got whammed again. This not knowing what you can eat and what you can't, that's going to cause your blood pressure to go crazy, is getting just a little insane. But oh well. Life goes on.
How are you? The topic tonight, obviously, it touches a sensitive.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, he's sitting here, so it's nothing he hasn't heard from me 100 times. He worked with this woman, and I could see the writing on the wall. And my husband is a very sensitive guy. I mean, he can be fooled by a lot of people. Let me tell you. And I kept telling him, you need to get away from her. You need to get away from her. Something's not right. And it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And like I said, we pretty much had I say knock down, drag out. No, nobody got hurt. We slung words and yelled and screamed and hollered but it's still, I mean, even 4 years later, it stings. It's like, you're like, okay, is it going on? And that's why it's so hard to trust your instincts after it's happened, because it's like, well, you think it's happening, but odds are it really isn't, but your instincts are broke by then.
So, Colleen, when you found out, here's a interesting question, but because obviously we're all very different. As I said, every relationship, every situation is different. But when you found out, did you want to leave?
No, not really.
And why was that?
Not really. Because I still loved him.
So
I mean, I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to holler at him. I wanted to make him hurt as bad as he hurt me. I wanted to get in her face and have words with her. And literally this crazy psycho broad says, oh, well, if she, and I said, well, I'm going to tell your husband and that'll solve it once and for all. You tell my husband and I'm going to call the cops on you.
I mean, you know, as we were saying with
Yeah.
affairs, there can be lots of reasons why something happens. It can be the dynamics between you, the relationship. You know, do you feel that your relationship now is in a very different, stronger place than it was back then?
Yeah, I don't know. Most of the time, yes, but every once in a while I get in one of my modes and I'm like, okay, you know, we're not talking, we're not doing this, we're actually, I can't just point the finger at him. We're both on our phones 24/7, so we're kind of trying to ignore each other. And I'm like, okay, you're at it again. I'm like, who you talking to now? I'm like, yeah. So basically excuse me, bitch comes out in me again. But
So you get
for the most part, yeah, we're
triggered.
good.
You get triggered by certain things.
Oh, yeah, every once in a while, it'll still trigger, and it's like, you know, it's like.
And how does he feel when this trigger happens?
Oh, he gets mad at me. He said, well, you think I want anything to do with you when you're acting like this? I'm like, well, no, not really.
Duck and cover. Duck and
But
cover. That's what I tell Uncle Waver.
And I hope
Mhm.
I'm speaking very fairly here. Sometimes we do have to look at ourselves, though,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
actually go,
Yeah.
did our relationship, did we both contribute to happen? I mean, for instance, I know somebody who basically they were married for many years, but they didn't share a bed through circumstances. There wasn't a lot of sex between them. They felt very pushed out, left out, and emotionally not wanted. Things happen. And it's like sometimes we do have to look at ourselves and go, did we contribute? I'm not saying it's a good excuse or a reason, but we have to look at ourselves as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can say, yeah, I probably wasn't giving him the attention he wanted, and you know, there's I was working full time. I was tired. I was starting at the beginning of health issues. You know, he thought he just had a friend and he was helping her, and I think she pushed it, and he didn't really see it. I don't think he saw it coming. It was an emotional affair. He still has struggles with, well, I was just trying to help her. It's like, well, she had a husband. That was his job. So that's what gets me.
Colleen,
And
have you ever been tempted to cheat?
on my husband now, no.
But on your previous
On my husband before, yes.
and what did you go there? Did you stop?
Oh, I went there. I had a friend, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, my ex, as many of you know, he beat the crap out of me pretty good one night, and I was talking to one of my friends, and and this was a female friend, and he would happen to be over there, and he said, well, let's meet up for coffee. He said, I want to see you're okay, and kind of one thing led to another. This guy, I wouldn't do it to him. I just can't. Like I said, that's not in me. It just, I don't know. Like I said, I did it the once, and it was like, oh my God, you got to. What did I do? I'm like, yeah, that was horrible.
Different circumstances, different situations, things can happen. And it doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means we're all human. And sometimes we have needs that are not always, you know, I mean, I'm including myself in that scenario. You know, I look back at when I was younger in my early 40s. I was a very, very different woman. I was very insecure, very needy, very needy. And, you know, I was with someone and I'd lost a baby, and it was very, very difficult between us. I didn't get a chance to grieve or to have that relationship sorted out. And unfortunately, that relationship ended, and I ended up, as I said, dating someone who was coming out of a marriage, and it wasn't the best decision. And you look back and you go, now, although I don't regret everything that's happened because it's made me who I am today, I look back and go, I would have chosen a better route if I looked at it differently.
Yeah, right.
But as human beings, we all have that ability to want to be wanted, desired, and needed. And Michael, if you're with someone and you're not getting those things, and did you try? You say you were cheated on when you were abroad? Obviously, were you cheated on while you were in the country?
Yeah, I've had it both. Both of it hurts. Both of it things.
And it was. And why did you actually talk about it? Did you know it was happening? Do you think that your relationship in a way was lacking something that made it happen?
No, like I said, when I confronted her, she lied about it. So I figured, they get one chance to come clean. If they can't come clean with one chance, then it's game on. And like to what you was talking about with Carlene, my grandmother always said, hindsight is 20/20. So you can look back and think, I'd have done this differently or I'd have done that. But, I have learned to live my life. And I've talked to you and Valerie and Carlene, all three, about it. I anymore, I live with the no regret rule. If I did it, it happened. That's part of me. That's part of my past, part of who made me me. And now the ladies that are in my life that I talk to, they see me as my sons, and they see how I build my sons to be a better man than I was. And like I said, Wendy's see them and talk to them, and they're always very polite.
Yeah.
A little cheeky from time to time, like when you call, you got the younger, better version of me, talking about me.
There you go.
What advice would you give to one of your sons who was thinking of cheating?
In the relationship that you're in, give it some time, think about it, and if you still have them same feelings for that person, and it just ain't chemical reaction like endorphins, go for it. Because like we said, most time men are slow and stupid. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Mrs. Jones just fell down and I couldn't help myself. Very animalistic. It's like the reptile brain takes over and they can't think without the nose in their penis. And, men are silly like that. Men have always, from caveman time, go out, repopulate the world, same thing. And,
so what advice would you give them if they've been cheated on?
Leave.
You'd
no second chances.
Not work through it.
No.
That goes with that once a cheater, always a cheater, though, doesn't it?
Pretty much.
Which I don't agree with. I don't think that's true.
I don't think it's always true, but in some certain circumstances, some people.
Yeah.
The longer you stay,
with
the
my
more
ex-husband, he cheated on his first wife.
I mean, I know people that have done it the once and never done it again because of the effect that it had. So I don't believe once the cheater, always the cheater. I think every relationship and situation is different. You have got multiple cheaters out there who absolutely can't help themselves. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you've also got someone
cheaters.
Like, if I'm using this as an example, Michael, if you're in a relationship and there's problems and someone cheats, you've got to both look at your situation and go, did I contribute to that? Did I not help that situation? Would counseling have helped? Would have sitting down communicating with each other have helped? Or would it help now? Do you throw away 10 years over one mistake?
Yeah, burn it down.
I think it's all about the people in that relationship.
The dynamics of the relationship. If you've been married for 45 years, you got to put it on the sliding scale.
Yeah.
If I've been with them 2 weeks and they're already on somebody else, move the fuck on. If
but
I've been with them 3 years,
I think if both parties agree to do the therapy or whatever it takes to make things better, then it's a different story. But like Michael said, if you've if you've been married 5 years and they've cheated 3 times, I think it's time to move on.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to change in the next 20.
No, and it's like, and you got to look at how much time you have invested and how much more time you're going to invest.
Yeah.
And it is it worthwhile.
I think a
Is
lot
that
of
a
people, the
priority?
older they get, the more they think it's not even. I'm just not even gonna get divorced. I'm just forget it because it's so much trouble.
Mm.
If
Getting divorced.
if you use the example of Camilla Parker Bowles, who was
Ugh.
famously well known to be the mistress of the King of England now,
Woman got patience. I'm just saying.
and
Oh, yeah.
some would look at Princess Diana, and some would look at Camilla and go, why the hell did this happen?
Yeah.
But the thing is, you also got to look at the dynamics of that.
Yeah.
Diana was very emotionally insecure. She was a very younger woman. He was a very introverted, emotionally older guy who'd never brought out his feelings. He made the biggest mistake of not asking Camilla to marry him at the time he did. And he paid for that. They all paid for it. But now you see him married to her, and for William and Harry, that must be very difficult. My dad married one of the ladies he did have an affair with. He actually married her. They were married for many years. They were very happy together. It was very hard for me to see them together because they were the final nail in my parents' marriage, in the coffin. And I had to be nice to her when I actually looked at her and I was like, thanks to you, my parents have split up. But as I've got older, I've started to look at that situation a little bit different. I'm still that 5-year-old child, like we all are, but I'm also this other person that says, well, there was obviously love there. He fell, they fell for each other. And what happens if you both cheated on your partners and you then get together and have a relationship? Is that a worry or rescue that we both cheated on our partners? We could do it on ourselves?
I think it has to do with the people.
Yeah.
If
50-50.
I do want to say that Richard said therapy is an absolute waste of time and effort. It's not always a waste of time. Sometimes,
Not always,
yes, but not always.
a lot of
Yeah.
times, because a lot of times when one partner finds out the other one's cheating, it's been going on for so long anyway that it's like, okay, you just okay, you wanna pull that. Like I said, it just on my ex, he kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it, and I kept putting up with it. And now today, I'm like, what the heck, was I brain dead or what?
You would put up with it that long anymore, would you, Carlene?
But why do
No.
we put up with it? And we come up with those immortal words of, I love them. I love you. 3 words that can be so wonderful and yet so dangerous.
Or I
I
can
love
change them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know
Right.
I've said that before and got it thrown back in my face. So
I'm glad you brought that up, Valerie. I have heard that from so many women. He's a prick, but he's my prick. I will change him. He's never had a woman like me to get him down the straight and narrow. I'm
I've
going to
said that.
reform him,
But-
and I actually think a lot of times therapy for like marriage is an absolute waste of time. I agree with Richard, and I'm training to be a therapist. So if that takes
well,
money out of my pocket,
I
I'm
agree
stupid
that
enough
in
on
some circumstances it is a waste of time if one or the other of the people do not want therapy.
most of the time it's the one who cheated wants the
Yeah.
therapy. The one who got cheated on don't want the therapy. They just
Yeah,
want to be done.
they just want to be mad.
Yeah, that's it.
But
And
but I also think that the people that are changed when you're in a relationship and you think you can change that person, you're the one that changes, not them.
it's it.
And you get bitter and you get, well, why can't I change them? Why am I not good enough for them to change? But it don't work.
Yeah, I did that with my ex. I'm like, oh well, I'll change him. He'll stop doing it, and
Yeah.
and then it got to the point like, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, he would brag about doing it to his ex-wife before I even married him, and I'm like, after I finally got out, I'm like, what was I? Friggin' brain dead or what?
Yeah.
Michael, do you
And
feel interesting from this point we were talking about earlier on with affairs and a lot? What do you think is classed as cheating? When does cheating become cheating from your view?
Once when you feel like you have to hide the activity from your significant other, or it be texting, talking, phone calls, sex. You know what I'm saying? Travis said, multiple wives. I've said for a long time, if men can have multiple wives, women should be able to have brother husbands. I've got hate mail, Travis. You better watch how that's said. Have had people threatening to throw up on it. I was like,
I
come
don't
on.
want more than one.
Yeah, that's what I said. Most times they can't put up with one prick, much less several others, and you can take that physically or whatever speaking. But no, it's I look at things differently now that I'm older, and I hope my sons will see the mistakes I've made and learn from them, learn from my mistakes, not theirs. And I was called the other day, and it was asked for my opinion with somebody, and I sat down and had a very long, in depth, and give her a male's perspective of why I think she should get the fuck out. I said, honey, if he's doing this, this, and this, he's doing something else. And she said, why would you be that honest for? I said, well, look, you're a friend. It's not like, what's he going to do? Beat me up? I doubt it. I'm trying to be a kinder, gentler Michael, but that other side's still there. So, but if somebody asks me, if a woman comes and asks me and says, hey, I think my significant other is doing this, 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 I go into counselor mode and I say, hey, what are they doing? What are the signs you see? And I heard several times, thank you for letting me know I'm not fucking crazy. And it's not that I was playing into her insecurities from an outside third person view that's not right connected to the situation. You can see a whole lot more clearly than somebody who was like right there beside him. And I told her, I said, hey, this is what I think. And this is why I think it. And everything that was said, I backed up with like 3 or 4 reasons why I thought that. And I said, this is the information. This is what I think from what you've told me. This is what I think you should do. But at the end of the day, it is totally up to you whether you do A, B, or C. And I'd like to think I'd give her some pretty sound advice.
Years ago, I had a boyfriend that I knew was being unfaithful, and I had to get absolute proof that he was having, because I knew if I didn't bow, it would be like, you're nuts, you're crazy, it's not happening, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I actually ended up following them. And we a friend of mine did it with me. They came with me, and I remember driving up the road with just the car going past, and almost being on the floor of the car as we went past. But I remember the sick feeling I first saw, because back then there wasn't mobile phones. You couldn't just, you couldn't do that. I remember it was a letter. It was a note that I found, and I did, and it's going to sound so strange, but it now I look back at it obviously from a very different point of view. But back then I was very young. It was a first serious kind of boyfriend relationship, and I found, we used to swap up. I'd take his car, he'd take mine, and that's how I found the note. And there was a particular air freshener that she had bought him, and he had in the car. So I thought, I'm going to go and buy the same air freshener and put it in my car, which I did. And I think that kind of freaked him out, going, you have the same air freshener. And, then we went to the cinema one night, and she turned up with her boyfriend at the time. And I think she almost like shit her pants saying me there, pardon the pun, because she was like, oh my God, and I just wanted to drown her, obviously, at the time, but I didn't, because I went a different route. But I was very determined to get, and I was actually told at that point, and I know since that time, there's been an apology, and we've both moved on very much in our lives, so there's no malice or anything. But I think back then there was a reason of, well, sometimes you get bored with what you've got at home, so you look for something else outside. And I think sometimes people do get bored. The relationship is boring, you know, it's not fulfilling them, and they don't want to split up with a person because, like I said earlier on, they've got all the good sides about the relationship, or you know, but they also want that, you know, that fizz, that sparkle. And obviously we weren't married together, so we could have split up and everything, and it ended up with us splitting up anyway. But I think you learn, that was sort of like my first kind of like, oh my God, you know, the feeling of feeling sick, reading what someone else has written to my partner, to know that there's communication between them both, and you feel like you're the idiot. You feel like they've pulled the wool over your eyes, that you are stupid, and they think that you're stupid, and you suddenly go, wow, they really don't care about me at all. They really don't, because they're focused on themselves, and literally you become the third person. You know, when Princess Diana said there's three of us in this relationship, because there is three of you, there becomes three or sometimes four. And sometimes, you know, one affair is not enough. And I'm so sad that my friend couldn't come on today, because she would have shared her story. But, you know, I've been there where your partner's gone, you're crazy, it's all in your head, you're imagining it, you know, I'm sick of you. And they want this big argument. Because they want to dump you. They want to dump you, and the next thing you know, they're off with someone else, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that person must have been,
or they try to turn it around and make it your fault.
Oh yeah, that goes back to what Keith said, gaslighting.
Yeah.
Gaslighting is, but no, it's but I was going to tell you, I've seen Robert Pitts pop up in the comments. Uncle Terry finally seemed like he could make it.
I guess
Oh, there we
hockey's off.
go.
Yeah, hockey's off. You know, he's started watching.
well, he might be watching, but he hasn't come on the show. But we're glad you're here.
Oh, that's true.
His feathers are showing just a little bit. Just a little bit of his feathers are showing. Just a little chicken.
There you go.
You know, he comes on KB's, you know, with his hair all buzzed up. You know, call me hair, Terry. Pop on.
So as we're looking to, it's been an interesting subject, and I'm sure it's one that you could talk about a lot, because we've all got experiences. But I want to go to each of us and ask, as Val, have you been a cheater, or is it more just the cheated?
Who?
Have you been the cheater and the cheated, or?
I've been cheated on.
Yeah.
One that I know of for sure. Others that I have not proven, but kind of feel the same.
And what was the one thing that it's left with you today?
Honestly, that, you know, if I feel that way again, I will find out from the source. And if they refuse to tell me, then, you know, I'm not going to feel that way again. I'm not going to drive around, try to find them. I'm not going to, you know, put myself through that. It's miserable. It's miserable. I will never put myself through that again. I will leave the relationship before I put myself through that again. I refuse to do it.
What about you? What is it left with you?
I won't do it again, ever. I mean, if I ever find out I can't do it again. As much as I care for a person, and they've been through me by my side thick and thin through these health issues, I can't do it. Can't do it. And I've made it clear that, you know, if I prove it ever again, it's done. Can't do it.
Very good point from Richard. Move forward and always keep your eyes open and not be blindsided. Michael, what about for yourself? What is it left with you?
Oh no, KB says I look happy. I was reading some of the comments that were on the side, and KB said Carlene looks mad. You know, Carlene is reliving some things, and I can tell that, you know, this show brought up some feelings that
trigger.
You know,
it's a trigger.
that you squashed, and and cousin Dave out there in Vegas. So what causes one to change? Is it the lack of sex, or is it that you're an info? You know, if one person is sexual, I got that out without getting too tongue tied, and the other person is just kind of
Did you though?
mundane. Yeah, just kind of mundane. You know what I'm saying? That's an incompatibility that you should have talked about before you got into the relationship. If one's in the missionary and the other one's in the whips and chains and being tied to the wall and spanked, that relationship probably ain't going to work.
That's
So he's
probably the biggest comparison you could have come up with.
But you know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say that's a good one.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? If one person is like missionary style, whatever, and the other person is like BDSM, vanilla,
Yeah.
vanilla, yeah.
Mhm.
And the other one is not, they want the fruits and sprinkles. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's not really that they're an info. One might just be more hypersexual than the other person. And that happens with age sometimes. Sometimes people lose T or whatever, like in men, and their sex drive drops off. And at a certain age, women kind of catch their second wind, their hormones shift, and they become more whatever. But no, it's
I mean, that's very true. Men do suffer from, and we talked about this before. Men
last week,
low testosterone, and they may feel the pressure that they can't. And I actually know quite a few people that have said to their partners, "Look, I can't give you what you want. Maybe if you want to go and get it elsewhere, I don't want you to, but as I can't give it to you." And that's a very different subject altogether, isn't it? Of like actually being allowed to have that situation.
But I think in order to do that, both parties have to truly be on the same page. And when someone does not feel like they can do what they need to for the other person and says, go, I'm giving you permission, they're really hoping you won't do that.
Yeah.
Because it's really going to hurt that person.
Yeah. It's really a selfless act or something other. It's almost like following on your sword for the greater good.
Yeah.
And,
well,
it's, and that's not right.
But, I think there needs to be, there's things that you can do if something happens, such as that happens. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily the point that you come to, okay, I can't give you what you need because, my soldier is retired. But, there's other things you can do to make up for that. You don't have to say, okay, I can't do it, so go get it somewhere else.
I think it's important to remember that being rejected by somebody you really like or you really care about, being lied to, by being, to have your trust broken are game changers.
Absolutely.
Because once you've been rejected and once you've been lied to, once you've been betrayed, it's very, very hard to get back on that pony. I would say for me, it's left with me. There's definitely scars and demons. It's left in me for sure. But one thing it's left, the moment I get a snifter of anything, I'm like, gone. At the moment I get anything that's like, there could be someone else. Yes, I might want to find proof, but I will never, ever go to the lengths I went years ago. Now it's just like, look, if someone's going to cheat on you, they're going to cheat on you. It doesn't matter how much checking up you do, following them, they could deny it. If someone's going to do it, they're going to do it. And it sucks. And my only advice or guidance would be, you've got to find the answer, what's right for you. Everyone is different. If you stay with the person who's done it, and that's what you want to do, and then you take the consequences. But I also think that if you stay with someone, and this is something I feel is quite important, although it's never forgotten, But if you stay with someone that has done it, you can't keep bringing it up and
Yeah.
using it against them, because then it's like, well, hang on, you chose to stay with them, and therefore you've got to take their responsibility for that. You can't keep going, yeah, but you did this to me. And then what about if you do it to me again? Because you have to get to that point of, look, it happened. We can't change it. We have to either leave it behind us or move on. You can't keep bringing it up, or you can't go, oh, but that reminds me of it. Yes, you're always wary, and you're always going to be, you are going to be looking for signs, but I think you also have to then get to a point of leaving it where it was. But for me, I cannot go back to, definitely can't go back to that way. No way.
But and you make a good point with that, Wendy. I have seen people who have cheated and their wife has stayed, and if the man don't hurry up and do something, say, well, if such and such was here or ask you, you'd sure as hell do it. And that is their go-to to initiate a fight every time.
Yeah.
Oh, honey, I didn't get the yard mowed. Oh, if it's such and such's yard, you'd have mowed her grass. Or I didn't get this fixed in the house. Oh, if it was her sink that was leaking, you'd have got right there to do it.
Yeah.
And it just builds in more toxicity. So that's the reason I said most of the time, human beings cannot have the capacity to move on, because I know if somebody cheats on me, I want to think of them with the other person every time I'm trying to be intimate with them, and it ain't going to work because I'm going to get
Or
hurt.
if they're 5 minutes late, where are they at? Are they?
That's it.
You automatically go to that in your head. So if you are going to stay with someone that has done that, I think you need to communicate more than you ever have.
Yeah.
And, you need to forgive. And if you can't forget, you need to throw it behind you and don't keep coming back to it, because it's just going to hold you back from,
and if you can't get past it, like if you say, well, you did this to me years ago and now I can't get close to you, what is the point of staying with someone? You are starving yourself and them of a normal life. And you know what, as I said, life is really, really short. We only get one go at this particular role. And it's like, make each day count. You can't just turn around and say, well, and if you come up with the immortal words, I love them, then if you love someone, you must also love the bad and good about them as well. You can't just pick the good and the bad. You've got to be like, look, I don't like what you did to me. I don't like what you did to me. It really, really hurt me. I chose to stay with my husband, so I speak from experience. I don't like what you did. It really, really hurt me, but I love you and I love this marriage. And I'm committed to this relationship and marriage, and I want to make a go of it. But you can't keep bringing it up, because what will happen in the end is they'll just turn around and go, you drove me to it. You kept pushing me to it. You kept thinking I was going to do it. So I might as well go and do it anyway, because you think I'm going to do it. There's all these avenues that you can go down, and it's trust you can't get back once it's gone. You can try and rebuild it, but the original trust is gone. And for me, I remember when I wanted to punch the living hell out of him, but I was determined. And this is what I'm saying. It's not that easy when someone's having an affair. I did not want him to have her. I didn't want her to have him. So I was damn sure that I was not going to give up my marriage. So she got what she wanted, and he didn't want her anyway. It was never about her. It was about him needing a lot of assurance. He had a lot of issues in himself, and he kept, one woman just wasn't enough to give him, and he wasn't having sex with these women. It was more a mental, because sometimes affairs are mental and emotional. They're not physical. They're getting something that helps them make them feel alive, or they they make them feel like they're getting fed. They live on it. Sometimes you hear people say, it kept me alive. It kept me in that marriage for so long, having this other person.
It's the attention that they get that they're not getting at home. Like I said, his was emotional, and let me tell you, emotional is brutal. He said, I wasn't interested in her that way. And I'm like, yeah, but And Wendy, you make a good point, and I'm glad I listened, and I'm actually glad I popped on because I still find myself occasionally, well, you did this, and that's like, yeah, okay, bad thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I'm saying this generally because I was there and I did it,
Yeah.
and it was like I used to bring it up a lot, and I feel that my marriage failed because obviously there were issues, sadly, with him, but I also the trust was broken, and although I tried so hard to keep that marriage going, I wouldn't let him forget what he'd done.
Yeah.
I couldn't forget it. So I do think that, now I look back and I think, look, if you're going to stay with someone, you got to accept them, warts and all. If you love someone, you got to love the good and bad about them, warts and all. You can't just pick, well, I like this about you, so I'm staying for this bit. But so what you're saying is you love them, but you don't like what they did. And I think there comes a time when you have to, like Ken was saying, you have to forgive. You don't forget, but you have to forgive, because otherwise it eats away at you like a cancer, and it eats away at them as a cancer. And I've seen many couples in my time as a counselor.
Well, it's the love the sinner, hate the sin kind of
Yeah.
thing, you know.
And it's weird that KB brought that up. Forgive and forget. If anybody knows Kim Barrows, but no, it's crazy that you brought that up. If I'm being accused of it, I might as well do it. That's actually written down here in my notes. If you're going to bollock me 24/7, and I'm going to catch the ass chewing for it, I might as well be guilty of the crime I'm getting chewed out for.
Mm.
Well, I mean, I
I'm
was
gonna
accused of
justify it.
cheating every time I was 5 minutes late. Every time I had, you know, e- every time I picked my phone up, I was accused. I mean, you do get to that point that, you know what, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to go ahead and do it because I'm already being accused of it.
Interesting point. What if you haven't cheated on someone, but they've been cheated on, and they then start to accuse you of cheating because of their own insecurities? Do we
Leave.
stay? Do we reassure?
Leave.
I
Let
think
they
you
get-
either, it depends on the situation, but if you try to reassure them and they keep bringing it up, it's not going to work.
No. The same thing, like I said the other day, building a house or a relationship or anything has to be on solid footing when you start out.
Solid
Yeah.
foundation, yeah.
And if they're already digging holes in your foundation, them issues are going to keep coming and are only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, reducing yourself to being a cheater, to do, like I said, if you're going to be accused of it, do it. Just leave.
Yeah.
Just pack your shit, get the dog, haul ass. At one time I was so jaded when it came to things like that. And my mom used to tease me that I was going to give my pit bull a backpack because when shit came up, Michael was flighty as fuck. I tell the dog time to haul ass. She'd be in the truck before I was. Sometimes I think she even started it for me.
I hope tonight that we've helped anyone watching it who's going through it, or at least because it was brought to us by someone who wanted us to tackle this subject tonight. There are many different levels of cheating, and there are many different forms of betrayal. It is down to the individual person what their level and boundary is, what they're prepared to take, what they're not prepared to take. And to be honest, who are we to judge another one? Because as they say, you have to walk a mile in someone else's shoes before you can really know what that person's going through. Is it right to judge another? All of us have made mistakes. All of us fuck up. All of us hurt someone else. It makes a real person to actually stand there and face their demon or face their mistake and go, I made a mistake. I fucked up. But you can hold it against me forever, or we can move on from this, or you can let me go. Because I think if it's a very unhealthy situation to keep bringing it up and throwing it up, it's not healthy for anyone. And I think one thing I learned after I came out from my marriage is just how much exhaustion it was living with, is he doing it? Oh my God, is he doing it again? Do I
Yeah,
need to
yeah, it's exhausting.
do I
it
need to,
is.
I don't want to go back ever to that. And so it's like, look, you can have them. I remember dating someone latter years and finding out they were cheating. I was like, I'm gonna pack your bag and off you go. Bye bye.
See, I
Because
think after
Happy
you
trails.
go through that, after you finally, what, Michael?
I said, happy trails, bon voyage, safe voyage.
Yeah, I
I
think
laugh.
after, once you go through that feeling,
Maybe on
you
the top.
refuse to go through that feeling again.
yeah,
Oh no.
And you would rather cut ties and send them on their way as to go through that jealous, wondering where they're at, all that feeling again.
and
Because
also
it's horrible.
all the time that you're wasting checking, you could be with somebody who actually really likes you, really
Yeah.
loves you, is really into you, and you don't have to trust, you don't have to worry about them because they haven't done anything to you. You can start again. Yes, you've got your demons and you need to work on them yourself. We all need to work on our own demons. You can't keep blaming someone else for your own demons. They might have helped put them in there, but they're not going to work. They can give you the reassurance you need and they can show you a lot, but we've also got to work on our own demons.
Yeah.
But I think there could be someone out there who's absolutely wonderful for you. And do not take, if you can, do not take the sins of a previous relationship, which we all have done in our time. Try to not take that into the next relationship.
Yeah.
That happened to me. A woman had been cheated on. I was at work, and because I wouldn't answer my phone because I couldn't, because I was on the phone with their IT department. I was the network technician on the ground, but they had the technicians that was working the back end, so I couldn't answer her phone. And she had so much emotional damage that she drove like 2.5 hours through a monsoon
Wow.
to get here to confront me like at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I told her, I said, rule number one was check your emotional baggage at the fucking door. What somebody else did to you, I am not going to pay for the sins of it.
But it's hard not to do that. It's hard not to bring in those emotions.
It takes a lot of practice, and
It
like
does.
I said, then
It really
when
does. And I
something
think
happens in the
But-
relationship
but
that you're
that
in,
was the straw with
just
her
is
that
like,
broke the
oh my
camel's back.
God.
I also think it's really important to, if you need to get yourself sorted out for a while, because I know when I came out from my marriage, I got involved 10 months later into another relationship, but I was gone obviously 10 months, but I got into a new relationship, which was very, very different. But my demons were still on both shoulders going, hello, still here. So any kind of snifter from the new relationship, my demons were still raw. So had I probably taken time out to recover from that, although having said that, I actually think once you've gone through something traumatic like that, which it was in my sort of case, you never ever get over it. And it's amazing the excuses that people come up for doing it. You sit back and you go, so why did you do it then? Like, why? And when you're actually talking about it, why did you do it? And some of the excuses that come up, well, it was there, or I thought it was this, or I thought it was that. At the end of the day, before we all do it, before we've had it done to us, you have that 1 second, that in your couple of seconds that goes, stop. You know what you're doing. We all know what we're doing. We know when we're being cheated on, and we've got a choice to stay with it or leave, and we know if we're about to cheat on someone. I want to thank each and everyone that's been here with us tonight. I'm going to come to the lovely Val, and she's going to tell us all about the shows that are on this week. Val, go for it.
Woo! Put me on the spot. Okay,
There you
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You've got Scotty Roberts, 10 o'clock Eastern on his shows. You've got Robertson on Tuesday,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And as far as the time, Wendy, is it?
so
I don't
we
know
are,
with this time change crap. I
so
don't
at
know.
the moment there's 6 hours, I believe, between us. Is that right, Michael? 6 hours?
So it would be at 5 and 9 instead of 5 and 10. Because but when they have their time change, it'll go back to 5 and 10. But right now it's
Right.
5 and 9.
Yeah. So
Well,
on Tuesday,
yeah,
Or
I'm saying I didn't know if they were going to continue at 5 or if they're going to wait till 6 like we did, or I don't know. That's up to you all. Anyway,
when
it'll be on
when
the
you're international, Val,
promo.
well, I'll get you an app for your phone that you can keep up to the correct time. Because that's how I learned it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times I know
Hey, I
hold
know
my
the
hands up.
times. I don't know the
She knows
time
the
change
time. She's
crap.
just saying
The
she
time
don't
change is
know if
hard. That's
that
what I'm
she-
saying.
Yeah.
But every day, every morning, 9:00, got morning coffee with KB at 9:00 in the morning
With a pot stirrer.
bring your wooden
with
spoon.
poop pot going.
Bring your wooden spoon every
Now
morning.
this this Wednesday will be my Miss Legends and Paranormal at 7 because it's from last Saturday or from yesterday. I wasn't able to do it yesterday. And
Eastern.
then what?
You got to say Eastern because you're 7.
Michael, I'm gonna come up here in a minute.
You're in trouble, Michael.
She knows it's not a love. She does. But no, that's what I'm saying. People just say
ADHD. Yeah, go on.
it is.
Squirrel, look out the window.
You did that to me the other Sunday.
I know I did. Saturday, so I'll have a show Wednesday and then Saturday this week. And then Sunday we're back.
So we've got 3 shows of vowing. We've got Wednesday, Myth, Legend, and Paranormal. We've got Saturday, Myth, Legend, and Paranormal, and Wicked Women on Sunday.
Yeah.
Scotty and myself, 10 o'clock UK. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we will find something fascinating. Ken, I would advise everybody that goes on Ken Ballas's show, be prepared to bring your wooden spoon because
Get prepared. Put on your
Bring
armor
your
because he
wooden
will hit you with
spoon.
that bus and run your ass over.
Because you will be thrown under the bus, and I guarantee tomorrow morning, if you go onto Ken Ballas on Facebook, Ballos, and go onto his castle, coffee morning show, Castle by the Roadside, you will find that Wicked Women will be mentioned tomorrow, and he will throw us under the bus again. So yes, bring a wooden spoon tomorrow because it's full of naughtiness with Ken show, and he'll just say, "I'm just saying,"
Who said that? Maybe said that. Yeah.
Tina comes up with a really good point. I've been divorced for 30 years. The worst of it is the loneliness. I'm getting old and want to have someone to share the golden years with. You're not getting old. Don't say that. I don't. You're mature. In your mature years. Don't we all, actually, Tina? Don't we all? But it's finding the right person to spend that time with, because you've wasted so many of your years with the wrong one or the wrong ones that you actually want to spend the best part of your life when you're a bit more wiser and maturer with the right ones.
I mean, if we could all have our wasted years back, that'd be great.
I would love them back.
Like I said, that would be awesome. I found the right one. We just had a hiccup, and he has stuff he's going to work on. And I've got, listening to you guys, I still got a little more stuff to deal with than I really thought I did.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of work that Robert Terry says we will roll over you. Terry, I think you need to come on this show and actually say that, because it's very easy to say it from a keyboard.
Yeah, we gotta call out them keyboard warriors like they do every morning.
They don't have.
I'm just going to say a lot of men tend to sit behind a keyboard and say a lot of things about actually coming on, and they just like to stir the shit. I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying.
They don't have the wickedness. They don't have the wickedness to come on.
That's right.
No, they haven't got the balls to come on.
Okay.
It takes big
I
balls
think
to come on
I
and
wasn't going to
absolutely
use that
what
because
I'm
that's what
saying.
Ken uses on his. So that's why I said the wickedness.
No, he
I
said
mean,
yes, Mike. Yep.
no, Ken, to be fair, does pop on from time to
Yeah.
time. He does
Yeah.
pop on. He
Stirs
comes
the
on with
pot and
a little
leaves.
smile down at the bottom.
His little
Yeah,
devious,
that
his
little
little
side eye
devious
look.
smile.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
And he
But you know,
stays.
to be fair, we're a small community. We all support each other.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would like if everyone could like, share, subscribe to Wicked Women 888. You can also find us at wickedwomen888.com. There's a new webpage that is coming. You can find us on Instagram under Wicked Women 888 and on Twitter, which is now X, under Wicked Women 888. We actually have a Twitter page now. We are not on Facebook. Can't do them all. So we are on
Give us a break,
Instagram,
people.
and look for the webpage. But listen, guys, have a wonderful week.
Yes,
I hope it's fantastic. Richard says, Ken won't let me come on. Well, yeah,
What's
don't
the
start that,
reason,
ladies.
Richard? What's the reason he won't let you come on?
Yeah, why won't he let you come on, Richard? You need to write that before we go. What does Tina say? They are male
No,
Gina.
Jana.
Yes.
No goodness.
Oh, there you go.
I was
But
going to
you know
say,
what's going to happen within 10 minutes of Ken's show tomorrow. You know exactly how it's going to
Oh,
go. don't you?
yeah.
Wicked Women trending on Ken Bella. But you know what I tell him? When, he says yes, Mike. But they can say whatever they want to about me because I support Wicked Women. I sing it from the water tower in town to the hairdresser to the grocery store clerk and all of that. And you know what I tell them? That's the reason I'm Mr. Wicked and you're not.
There you go.
If you want to be Mr. Wicked, come try to get the
That's
crown.
okay. Val and I will keep Ken under control tomorrow.
That's it.
Also, if
I'm
there's
like
any subjects that people would like us to look at, please let us know. We get people send it to us and say, like, can you look at that? And we do have a couple of great shows, very different shows coming up in the next couple of weeks, very different topics but everyone thinks we talk about the 3-letter word and we don't. But I just
not all the time.
I do. Me and Val are guilty of that.
What's that?
Talking about the 3-letter word.
Sex all the time.
I don't think so whatsoever. I'm just going to remove it away. So in the meantime, take care of yourself. Have a great week. Be kind to one another. Yeah. And you know what, Ken? Put that wooden spoon away because we'll be watching tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you here next Sunday, 10 o'clock UK time, 5 ET and 6 CT. Is that right?
I think so.
6 Eastern.
We will be here.
Say 6 until your time changes. Yes, 6 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah,
and just everybody be absolutely wicked. Have a great week. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.